Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred on podcast. It's Monday, so it's Tottenham news time. But before I get into, and what I'm going to talk about a lot is obviously it's the transfer window, transfer news. Huge shock movement for Timo Werner over the weekend for Spurs. Really interesting, kind of splitting the Spurs fan base down the middle in terms of whether they think that's a good signing or a bad signing. So I'm going to give you my 2 pence worth on it. And then also the continued talks for Radu Dragusin from Genoa, with rumours today that Bayern Munich have come in for him as well, which of course is interesting because Eric Dyer supposedly on their list. But I will get into all that transfer news and more in a second. But first, just to reiterate to you, you can now sign up to me as a member on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, as a Patreon member. All the details are in the description box. It's about £1 a month. And what I'm looking to do is build a community of people so we can have kind of members only live streams and Q&As, which I will do really regularly. And also as a member or a Patreon member, any comment you write across any of my channels, you'll get a guaranteed reply, and there'll also be other perks. It's only £1 a month, and like I said, it kind of supports me to make this content for you, which you seem to be really supporting and enjoying, so thank you so much. But also, I want to get this community together of football fans and Spurs fans, and as the greatness of the club grows under Big Ange, we can get together and maybe even further down the line meet up. Although I imagine it'll be a lot of you will be from different parts of the world. But anytime you're in London, I'll have some members only meetups as well. So do sign up for that membership. I really appreciate all of you who've done so far. When we get enough people together that I know we can do a live stream for members only, and it won't just be like me on my own in the room and my girlfriend who's also signed up for it, then we will be starting doing those members only live streams. Anyway, most importantly, back to the Spurs news, starting with Timo Werner. So much to talk about. This one really came out of the left field, but the more and more I think about it, the more I think this is smart business. If this was 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm looking glass half full now, but if this was 4 or 5 years ago, Timo Werner was absolutely the kind of player Spurs fans would have loved to have at the club. He ripped us to shreds in the Champions League when Jose Mourinho was our manager. I think anybody who's played Football Manager knows what a talent, a raw talent he's always been. And his numbers in the Bundesliga were absolutely huge. 30 goals for RB Leipzig, up against the big wigs of, the big teams of Dortmund and Bayern Munich. And he got his big move to Chelsea as a result. Now, what I would say is that he went to Chelsea during a classic basket case period of Chelsea at the club, but also when COVID happened as well. So a lot of the time he was playing in front of no crowds. Must have been pretty weird. But I will. I'm actually going to do an interview with Matt Beadle, who's the Chelsea fan football coach from Germany, who I interview a few times on here. We're going to do that tomorrow. I'll release that tomorrow, so we'll get a kind of real insider's look into Werner in Germany as well as at Chelsea. But I've spoken to him a little bit already, and he says that his numbers at Chelsea are not only pretty good in terms of the goals he scored compared to appearances and starts, but also he was just incredibly unlucky. And he actually rates him as a player, and certainly in Germany they do. Now, the most important thing for me in terms of him coming to Spurs under Ange Postecoglou is, A, if Ange wants him, that means he's looked at his attributes and he thinks he can fit the style of play. That's the most important thing. Secondly, Sonny away for the Asian Cup. Maybe Timo Werner slots straight in at left forward against Manchester United at Old Trafford. It's very possible. And if he's playing off the left, where we know he's got the pace to run in behind, it offers us such a different option, because Brennan Johnson doesn't look comfortable on the left. He looks far more comfortable on the right, and therefore we have options of pace on each side. And then, of course, he can also play the 9, so maybe if Richarlison's 5-5, it's now gone to 5-6, but if he drops off confidence-wise, maybe he can pull Richarlison back onto the left like he was against, say, Liverpool earlier in the season when he made that great assist for Sonny, and then Werner can offer us a threat in behind down the middle. So that's the positive slant. Obviously, how do you feel about another ex-Chelsea kind of player or manager coming to the club? It doesn't bother me in the slightest. In fact, if he scores goals for Spurs, love it even more. I don't see Chelsea as this huge rivalry the way that I think Chelsea fans do. We have our huge rivalry in Arsenal. So obviously, I hate Chelsea and I hate what they're all about and they're entitled. So there's a rivalry there, but our real rivalry is Arsenal. They moved into our patch. Chelsea needed to engineer a rivalry because their closest rivals are Fulham or Brentford, and they've never swum in the same waters really until recently anyway. So I don't care about that much, and if he scores goals for us, great. Also, most important thing about this potential signing, it's a loan with an option. It's not an obligation, and the option to buy Werner is only 15 million euros. If he scored, say, 5, 6, 7 league goals for us in this 6 months and showed his ability on the left-hand side of the forward line, I'd snap him up for 15 million quid as a squad player for Big Ange. If Big Ange puts his arms around him and gives him the confidence, he's clearly, like all footballers are confidence players, but he's clearly a confidence player, needs an arm around his shoulder to remind him of how talented he is and all the goals he scored over numerous seasons in the Bundesliga. If we can get him feeling that confident and use his pace, I would snap him up at 15 million. But look, it's early days. But look at some of the loans we've had previously. Carlos Vinicius. Is Timo Werner better than Carlos Vinicius? Yes, absolutely. Is he going to do more damage for us than Carlos Vinicius? Yes, absolutely. Is it a no-lose gamble? For me, yes, absolutely. And it's smart. And it shows to me that all the kind of recruitment side of Spurs and Big Ange are all working together to kind of sometimes think a little bit outside the box, not just the classic names that are being leaked out and in the kind of ITKs. This one came really from left field and I'm excited about it. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. I know there's a little bit of a switch, but I'd be so shocked if any of you came to me and were just like, this is a terrible idea. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Anyway, so that's my Timo Werner thoughts. But as I say, I'm going to interview Matt Beadle tomorrow on the show. So check in for that one because he is not only a huge Chelsea fan, but also a German football coach. And he'll be able to give us the insight of Werner from how it is in Germany because he's been living there for over 20 years. Bit of news out today. Ashley Phillips, centre-back, who we got in from Blackburn, has gone to Plymouth on loan. I think that's a good move for him. It's been clear to me that Big Ange, having seen him in training for 6 months, thinks to himself he's not good enough for the Premier League yet. He's not ready. He needs some regular game time in the Championship, the hustle and bustle, the hard yards of playing centre-half in the Championship. So he's gone there at a team who, realistically not around the top of the league. So he's going to have to work for it. He's going to have to work hard. I think it's a good move. Next up, Radu Dragusin. This is the transfer story that won't go away. And I tell you why I think it won't go away. Because I think he has said, I want to come to Spurs. Today, Bayern Munich apparently saying that he's on their list. Which is, of course, interesting because Eric Dyer is on their list. Eric Dyer, by the sound of it, waiting and desperate to go to Bayern Munich. Hang out with his mate Harry Kane. But Bayern Munich are being now talked about as interested in Dragusin. Napoli were talked about as having put a bid in for Dragusin. But for me, what has become clear over the past few windows is very rarely do Tottenham go all out and let the leaks come full circle like in the press unless they have confidence that that player wants to come to Spurs. And another thing, Big Ange has said it publicly, and I believe him. He talks to these players, and unless he gets the full idea that they want to come to Tottenham Hotspur, he doesn't want to sign them. So, some of you might be saying, well, there were lots of rumours that we were going to sign David Raya from Brentford and he ended up going to Arsenal. Well, I think he probably said to his agent early on, I want to go to Arsenal. And that's why the Tottenham rumours didn't kind of go into fruition. And we ended up getting Vicario, and I think we're all pretty happy at how that worked out. So I think the Napoli talk and the Bayern talk, maybe a little bit of kind of agent one-upmanship, trying to get a bit more money, Genoa trying to get a bit more money. I feel confident that this week, if not earlier, like if not today, but if not today, maybe in the next few days, we will get a here we go from Fabrizio Romano on that signing, and Radu Dragusin may well be in the team at Old Trafford alongside Mickey van der Ven to start against Manchester United, because I don't think we're letting Ashley Phillips go unless we are feeling unbelievably confident that we have a replacement for Ben Davies, who of course has now been injured. We don't know yet, when recording this, which is lunchtime on Monday, the extent of Ben Davies' injury, but it's a hamstring, and even if it was just a strain, best case scenario, that would be a few weeks out. So I think they're confident that Dragusin is going to come in. Next bit of news, Jed Spence. Obviously, I think it was Friday that Daniel Farker at Leeds explained why Jed Spence has been sent back to Tottenham Hotspur on loan. To me, this rings true of Jed Spence's career and the rumours of his personality for years now. Neil Warnock said it when he was managing him. He said, you can go wherever you want. You can go right to the top. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see you not make it at all. And Jed Spence has had his big move at Spurs, and all the Spurs fans were begging for him to get a chance and blaming Conte for not giving him a chance, or blaming Levy for it being a club signing in Conte's words. But sometimes you just need to have a clear strategy within recruitment. And what I feel now that we have is Big Ange being the last person to sign it off and meeting these people and getting a good judge of their character and whether they are really up for signing for this club and fighting for their place. And I think the fact that he sent Jed Spence on loan straight away to Leeds showed that he didn't look him in the eye and think that he had that desire. And as a result, Jed Spence has now come back because he's shown that to Leeds, that he didn't have the professionalism. Even though Leeds fans said he played really well and was their best fullback this season, he didn't have the professionalism. And to managers like Farke and Big Ange Postecoglou, professionalism is more important than your talent. Ange has said it numerous times. And Jed Spence at the moment is in a little bit of limbo in his career, and he needs to kind of get a second wind in terms of trying to show the desire required to make it at a top Premier League club, because he's got talent, there's no doubt, but we haven't seen it yet. And at this point, I have to say I'm doubtful we'll ever see it at Spurs. But I'd love to be proven wrong. That is your Spurs news today, guys. Thank you so much. Once again, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for your support. Please do go over to Spotify or the Apple Podcasts. Type in the Spurred On podcast and give me a follow or subscribe, and vice versa. If you're listening on the podcast platforms, please do come over to YouTube at Barnaby Slater _ on YouTube. Give us a subscribe and come and join the Spurred On Pro membership. It's only £1 a month, guys, £1 a month, and you can get live Q&As just for members only. Guaranteed comment replies, lots of other perks, and we're going to build this big community together as Spurs make their way up towards the top echelons of English football once again. Most importantly, come on you Spurs.